Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight to the Smithfield Town Council meeting, Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. We begin with a prayer, please. Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Amen. Salute to the flag.
United States of America, to the republic which stands God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Emergency evacuation and health notification.
Thank you, Council President. There's two main exits from the Town Council chambers. To the left of the stage, up the stairs will take you out the back of the building. Out of the back of the council chambers to your right, stairs will take you out the front of the building. Just past that on the right is a men's facility. Up the stairs to the left is ladies' facility. Please do not use the elevator in time of emergency.
Thank you, sir. We do have a presentation tonight. Councilman Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have a citation for a young man who did a lot of work in the community, worked with the Manual House, the employees and the clients in the Manual House, had a food garden, was covered by the TV. I wish we had more young men like Tyler Guilfoyle. And I give Tyler a lot of credit for doing this type of work, helping a lot of people who need help. Rhode Island is in a position right now where there's a lot of homelessness, a lot of food insecurities, and a lot of people that need help. So Tyler, would you come up? So Tyler, on behalf of the Smithfield Town Council, I want to present you with the citation for your spirit and volunteerism and commitment to giving back to the community. So I'm growing a vegetable garden and feeding the homeless at Emmanuel House. So thank you very much. And again, I gotta say it, I wish we had 1,000 Tyler Guilfoyles. The Rhode Island would be a better place. So thank you very much.
That's fine.
Whatever you guys
Left. That's excellent. And moving on to minutes, A, move that the minutes of the July 9th, 2024 executive session meeting held to consider, discuss, and act upon matters pursuant to Rhode Island General Law, Section 42-46-5A2, collective bargaining, local union 1217 of the Laborers International Union of North America, AFL-CIO, and Section 42-46-5A1, personnel, to consider, discuss, and act upon the Deputy Chief of Police employment agreement be approved as recorded and sealed.
Move passage.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item B, move that the minutes of the July 9th, 2024 open session meeting be approved as recorded.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Is there discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Item C, move that the minutes of the July 23rd, 2024 executive session meeting held pursuant to Rhode Island General Laws, Section 42-46-5A2, pending litigation, case number PC-2022-00953, Teresa Graham versus the town of Smithfield, be approved as recorded and sealed.
Move passage.
Second. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item D, move that the minutes of the July 23rd, 2024 open session meeting be approved as recorded.
Move passage.
Second. Is there discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And item E, move that the minutes of the August 1st, 2024 open session meeting be approved as recorded.
Move passage.
Second. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item 7, there are no appointments or reappointments tonight. Item 8, there are no public hearings. Moving on to licenses. Item A, consider, discuss, and act upon approving the annual renewal of 3 pool table licenses as listed, as applied, subject to compliance with all the state regulations and local ordinances. These are for Bryant University, Fisher Student Center, Portuguese American Social and Athletic Club, and The Last Resort.
Move passage.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item B, consider, discuss, and act upon approving one-day beer wine license for the Smithfield Senior Center as follows. A Hawaiian luau to be held on Wednesday, August 21st, 2024 from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Move passage.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item C, consider, discuss, and act upon approving one-day beer wine license for the Smithfield Senior Center as follows. Black and White Party to be held on Thursday, September 19th, 2024, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m.
Move passage.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item D, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a new peddler's license for Maria LLC DBA Maria Coffee Bar, 47 Wood Avenue, Suite 2, Barrington, Rhode Island, to sell coffee from a cart with RI Reg 1QB501, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item F, consider, discuss, and act upon approving one special event license for Revive the Roots for Rootstock, 374 Farnham Pike on the following date, Sunday, September 22nd, 2024, from 12 p.m. 7 p.m.
You skipped one, Mr. President. E.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. E, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a new mobile food truck license for Belly Busters LLC DBA Belly Busters, 57 Elkland Road, Warwick, Rhode Island, with a Rhode Island reg number IRG 193 as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations and local ordinances.
Move passage.
Seconded.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, item F. Consider, discuss, and act upon approving a one special event license to Revive the Roots for Rootstock, 374 Farnham Pike on the following date, Sunday, September 22nd, 2024, from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. All special event license for Revive the Roots are subject to compliance with all state regulations, local ordinances, and a final electrical inspection.
Move passage.
You want to say anything on it? You good? You want to say anything about it, or are you good? Okay. Look forward to it. It's excellent. Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Item G, consider, discuss, and act upon approving a new
Second on
mobile
that.
food truck license for Griddle Me This LLC DBA Griddle Me This to sell smash burgers, fries, onion rings, and breakfast burgers from a truck with RI Reg 1SR325, 5 Hollins Road, Cranston, Rhode Island, as applied, subject to compliance with all state regulations, local ordinances, and a copy of the retail sales permit.
Move passage.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to item 10, old business, there's none, new business. Item A, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing the town manager to sign a master agreement for crossing guard services with NES CTC Security Agency LLC as a sole source purchase in the amount of $64,620.00.
Good evening, members of the council. The police department requests the town manager have the permission to sign this agreement with NES CTC Security Agency. The police department has worked closely with Carlos Santos, the town purchasing agent, that provided us with information that this is a sole source. It's the only security agency in the state of Rhode Island that offers crossing guard services. As stated, we currently have a line item budget of $64,620 for the services. And the security agency will assure that all crossing guard posts will be filled with trained crossing guards. The police department will no longer be responsible for crossing guard training, scheduling, hiring, making sure the posts are filled. We will oversee that the posts are filled by the security agency, but it would alleviate a lot of our officers from handling posts that are unfilled.
Chief, is this new? As
This-
far as,
So we've always done crossing guards and we've always maintained them. So this would be a new contract with the new organization. One of the problems we've been having over several years, I would like to say after COVID, but it was even before COVID, we just can't get people. We can't get people to work the hours in the morning and in the afternoon. So it's very hard to cover those posts, and many times sworn officers are handling the post.
oh, okay, so that's the reason. Okay, thank you.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Item B, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing the police department to purchase 60 Glock handguns through the Combis Commonwealth of Massachusetts procurement system from Amchar Wholesale Inc. of Rochester, New York, in the amount of $35,617.00.
So this would be a replacement system for the 60 Glock firearms. We went through the procurement system and we had 3 vendors give us prices. Amchar was the lowest by $3,080. It's a reputable vendor. We've used them in the past. And our firearms have been in existence for over 10 years. And the replacement program should be anywhere from 5 to 10 years.
Chief, what happens to the old ones?
They get turned in, so that's part of the price. So it's like a trade-in. We trade in the firearms. It's one of the
And
reasons
you get
that
so much for it?
we get so much for, it, and that's what the price is included in the trade-in.
Okay, thank you. Move passage.
Seconded.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Item C, consider discuss and act upon authorizing a request from Ocean State Multisport to hold a Sour Apple Road Race in Deerfield Park on Sunday, July 2025.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any discussion on this? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item D, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing a request from the Rhode Island Brain and Spine Tumor Foundation to hold a blazing battle against brain cancer road race in Deerfield Park on Sunday, May 18th, 2025.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item E, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing a bid award for the sale of town-owned property located at 321 George Washington Highway, AP 48, Lot 51.
Good evening, Chief Zelda Fire Department. So in front of you, you have the results of the RFP that went out for the property at 321 George Washington Highway. We had two bids. The highest bid was $300,000 from Akeem. And let me try to say this right. Giaglu, or as we all know, Akeem's Tailoring.
Demercial blue.
Yeah, I only call him Akeem, so. So anyways, he came in at the highest. The other bid was, I believe it was 190, 175. So we only had two bids. And the interesting part is we actually reached out to some of the folks that were interested in the property. And after looking at it, within the size building they wanted to put on it, it wasn't suitable, for what they wanted to do. But just so you know, Akeem's plans is to put a small, retail, short strip mall there for retail, kind of similar to what he has over behind A&W. And I spoke to the solicitor earlier about he'll prepare the sales agreement and we'll work that out with the team.
Did we clear some of that land?
Did what?
Clear some of it?
Stanley Tree at the time, when we started this project, donated his crews to clear the property. And what we did at the time was we put that sign up there. We kept it up there for a couple of years actually to recognize his donation. Unfortunately, we're not using
Right.
the land.
Yeah, I know we spent money, on the design of the fire of a new fire station, but did we spend any other money on preparing the land?
The only other money we spent, we had the wetlands flagged. When we checked, we did some test holes to see what type of material was there to build onto, and DPW actually did the test holes, and the company that did the wetlands and provided a report to A.M. Roney and Associates, provided the report. So there wasn't a large investment in what we did there.
I'm just wondering, does everyone, all interested parties feel that this is the best we can do as far as price goes? I know it has to be leveled and a lot of work needs to be done, but I'm just curious. Is it worth going out to bid again or is it not? I'm just,
I don't know that you'll do any better. I do know we spoke with Stanley Tree. We spoke with Bay Crane, and there was another bidder, the pest control place on
Cam is.
oh, Cam was in there. He was the low bid. So the other three all told us that, when we walked the property with them and looked at everything, that for what they wanted to put there, it really wasn't a large enough lot for them, because when you reduce the lot with the wetlands, you only end up with about 1.5 acres roughly for to actually construct something and provide a parking lot. So I think that's the downfall of it. Obviously, I had enough room for what we would need for a fire station, but for a larger facility, it's kind of limited.
yeah, it just doesn't seem like we're getting a lot, only 15,000 more than what we paid, but I mean, I understand if it needs a lot of work. I just, didn't know what other people thought, if this was a good deal or not.
The other piece too, just to keep in mind, Councilwoman, is that immediate, upon sale, and also goes back on the tax roll. So we will, you know, get the value of the property, and then as he builds, that will also go on the tax roll as well. You know, unfortunately, it's not gonna work for us. You know, we've been trying to find people for a while, so this just going through the process wasn't as great as we would have. I think we all agree with that. But at least there was a profit, and you know, we will get another small business in town. The positives are outweighing.
Thank you. Fair enough.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item F, consider discuss and act upon authorizing the fire department to purchase one 2020 Ford Explorer Police Interceptor vehicle from Metro West Auto Sales of Worcester, Mass. In the amount of $17,887.00.
So as I had indicated, council members, in my memo to you, we unfortunately had some electronic equipment short out in this particular vehicle, the safety and training officers vehicle, and it created some significant electrical problems that really aren't worth fixing. We've purchased from this company before. We've had very good luck with the vehicle we've purchased. The other interesting thing, over the last month or so, we raised 19,000 and change from surplus equipment that we sold on govdeals.com, which will actually cover the cost plus on this vehicle. So, and with the amount of miles we put on, the vehicle will last for quite a while. We don't put a lot of miles on, so I think, you know, you saw the comparisons, they're in a very ballpark.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item G, consider discuss and act upon authorizing the fire department to purchase Motorola APX 8000 portable radios through the National Association of State Procurement Officials from Motorola Solutions in the amount of $401,769.92.
This last item, we were fortunate enough to get an Assistance of Firefighters grant through FEMA. And we're in the process of moving our communications to the Rhode Island Communications Network, as indicated in my memo here. The police have already moved over to that. And these radios are unfortunately very expensive, about $8,500, $8,600 a piece. But we're fortunate to get this grant to cover 90% of that cost. So this is, we're pretty happy with this grant.
Move passage.
Seconded. I do have a question.
Yep, discussion.
Similar to what Councilman Tassoni asked when we purchased the Glock handguns for the police department, what happens to the old radios that you have?
So some of them are going to be kept for backup, but there's a company we deal with called Sunny Communications, which purchases used equipment. The value on the radios we have, because of their age, is not very high. Maybe in the range of $50 to $100 roughly, and we're probably going to be at roughly 25 radios.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, what is the expected life of these radios? I don't recall seeing that. In
I
here.
hope forever for that price, but
Right.
typically portable radios last around 10 years if they're taken care of, or more sometimes. So
Okay, thank you.
yeah, it's a tough one.
What's the source of funds for the 10%?
I think I put it in there. So the-
$47,767.
Yeah, so the co-share is gonna come from the two-way radio communications ordinance that we put in place about a year and a half ago. I think it's in the fourth paragraph down or so. So we have about $70,000 in that account.
And this includes training on them, is what I'm
Yeah.
understanding.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's actually a Motorola representative that lives in Rhode Island.
great.
Any more discussion? Do we have a motion? on the table?
Yes.
Second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief. Item I, consider discuss and act upon authorizing a request for proposals for a town insurance broker.
You skipped one. You skipped H.
Keep crossing things off. Consider discuss and act upon authorizing a one-year extension for the purchase of gasoline and diesel fuel by the Department of Public Works through the Rhode Island Purchasing Agent Association.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item I, consider discuss and act upon authorizing a request for proposals for a town insurance broker.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion on this?
Our present insurance broker is we don't have a broker right now. We're part of the Rhode Island Interlocal Trust,
Correct.
which was set up by the cities and towns and was it set up by the cities and towns?
It was set up by the legislature, and I think it was in conjunction with some founding members. I'm not exactly sure who it was back in the day of the communities that were involved.
Right, and the reason we're going out to bid is there are serious deficiencies in coverage. We're not even covered for if a town employee loses their job and they sue us for lost wages. We're not covered for that. The enormous amounts of attorney's fees that can accrue during litigation over lost wages, we're not covered for that. And we're paying a lot for this insurance. And we've had every indication that we can do a lot better on the open market. We've had a recent case where we've had to pay out a lot of money because we had insufficient coverage. So I think that this is very important that we pass this so that we can at least get some proposals in on an insurance broker. We know that North Providence now has an insurance broker, and my information is that they pay less for insurance and they have full coverage. So I would urge the council to vote in favor of this motion.
And that's a great analogy. And I also think too that it should be for all insurances. We shouldn't be sticking with one company because after a while they get complacent and they really don't service their clients well. I mean, I just had an experience at my place where we've never gone out to bid, and I just saved a boatload of money.
I'm glad you brought that up because it reminds me that we also have, don't we have the school department in the trust right now as well?
There's a portion of their book of business with the trust, correct? And then there's another piece that I'm almost positive their workers' comp is carved out with a different insurer, but their
Right.
liability and so forth is with the trust as well.
So they wouldn't be covered for lost wages. So
Correct.
Perhaps we want to keep the school committee informed of what they're doing, so that of what we're doing, so that in case they want to do the same thing, which I'm sure they will. So
Correct.
let's let them know.
Move passage.
Seconded.
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item J, consider discuss and act upon a process for selection of a new town manager.
Mr. President, I suggest we have two recommended motions here, but I think that it would be beneficial to do all three in that we go out for an RFP, we advertise, and we start the process for a search committee. There's no reason why we should be doing nothing and twiddling our thumbs while we wait for the RFP to come back. We could be advertising and possibly getting great candidates. So that would be my suggestion. It's kind of a drop in the bucket for the budget anyway. At least use our free avenues as well to post. Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, if we advertise, it would create an additional source of resumes coming in, and then
Right.
we hire the recruiter can actually go out and see who they can find as well.
Exactly. And the best case scenario would be that we don't even need to use a search firm. I mean, we're probably dreaming there, but could happen.
Well, the search firm, if you gotta go out for RFP, that's at least 30 days. Then you gotta make the award. You know, if we go that route, we're looking like maybe February or March before we can get somebody in. So I mean, I would like to do the second proposal where we all give names to and sit down and try to come up with a five-person panel to review the resumes and then forward us well, not us, it'll be the next council to look at the resumes and hire the town manager.
Yeah, I think maybe, you know, we could go on a multi-track approach. We can do the RFP. And we can do the advertising. And, you know, we can do the search committee. Do that, we can appoint that at the next council meeting. This requires us to each submit 3 names. Let's do it all and, you know, see how it goes so that we can be ready for whatever, you know, whatever the market shows is out there for this type of position, because we don't want to be in a situation where, well, we should have advertised, you know, it took too long or whatever. Let's try everything and see what happens. It doesn't cost us much more to advertise, as Councilwoman indicated, so why not throw that in as well?
We have nothing to lose by putting out an RFP. It's free as far as I'm concerned, isn't it, Randy? Or is it just a small advertising?
Just a small
Oh,
advertising.
okay, that's what I thought.
Yeah, but-
Yeah, I mean, and additionally, it says here, recruitment typically takes approximately 60 to 90 days to complete. So, you know, I think it would be very foolish of us not to do all 3 at the same time. We want to expand our nets. We want to catch everyone as possible. This is such an important position in the town. This, you know, I mean, it really sets the tone of good management, obviously. So it's just, I don't think we have anything to lose doing all 3. This just doesn't make sense to do otherwise.
Yeah, so if we go out for the RFP, we're not gonna wait for it. We're just gonna go forward anyway. And then if we need it,
Hmm.
if we need the position, then we'll use it.
The recruitment, I see 12 weeks, 3 to 4 months. I don't see 90 days.
Says timeline on page 5 of 5 here. This is
I'm just looking at these recruiting firms.
that's just
For the recruitment, they anticipate a 3 to 4 month projected timelines.
3 to 4 months.
And-
So again, we don't have to do all of this stuff. We can do as much or as little as we'd like. You know, they go up to the background stage, do all that for us, just, you know, the final stage. Again, we don't have to allow them to do that. We just want them to find candidates, screen them for us. Well, I'm speaking for myself, and present us with what they feel is, you know, we're looking for, to do all the additional tasks. Like, we don't have to do that. So I don't believe it's going to take that long. And it does say 30 to 90 days here. Again, we have nothing to lose. I don't see why we wouldn't do this. We can always cancel or not select any bids if we don't need to.
Councilwoman, would that be your motion then?
Oh, yeah. So I would make a motion to, for the council to go out for an RFP for search firms, and also advertise the position and also start the process of the search committee, as described. Each council member would provide 3 names to the town manager, who would circulate a combined list for the council's consideration at the next council meeting.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
How
Good
you doing?
evening. Tom Hodgkins, 200 Furham Pike.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just whether or not somebody was second.
Second,
Sorry.
Thanks.
second.
All set? I understood. Tom Hodgkins, 200 Furham Pike. To the extent that the motion includes creating a search committee, and also with the idea that perhaps you'd be voting on a search committee at the next meeting, I wanted to reiterate what I said at the last council meeting, which is, I think you're getting a little bit ahead of yourselves, because I think you need to define what the search committee is going to do before you can adequately solicit candidates to be on that committee and or have them accept being on the committee. And I think that the main, or as I understand it, that one of the main issues with the committee is whether the committee is going to do initial interviews with the candidates or whether the council is going to do that. I think that's an important issue to decide first for the council to set that process and the scope of what the committee is going to do before you nominate people and vote on it and then form that committee. My suggestion would be, as I said, that the search, if you're going to use a search committee rather than a firm, that the search committee would review the applications. I think you'd likely redact any personal information from those applications to be reviewed by that search committee. And then the search committee would recommend 4 or 5 candidates to be interviewed by the council. And then the council would conduct those interviews rather than a search committee. I think that's more appropriate for it to be a council-driven process. And I think that's what's envisioned by the charter. I think it would also be beneficial for the town to solicit or advertise a public survey similar to what was done on the recreation piece, so that people could forward in that survey what their priorities are for a new town manager and any questions that they would be interested for the council to ask during those interviews. And that's a similar process to what the city of Newport did earlier this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Hodgkins, I would agree with you in that I personally would like to see at least a 3 interview process. Search committee, I'm sorry, the search firm, does the initial screening, all that kind of stuff. The search committee does, their set of interviews, and the council does the final interview. So you get 3, at least 3 is what I would like to see. I mean, this is, like I said, as we all know, a very important position. We don't want just 1 interview. And they should be recommending at least several candidates to us, assuming they're any good.
Ed DeMail, 75 Whipple. As I was listening to all this and Rachel said how important this position is, there is such a thing as, even if it goes over 60 days, to have, I'm just putting this out, I don't know for sure, Randy's teacher, Mr. Souza, temporarily take that job until you can get to the person you want, and he knows people that are in the business situation.
Yeah, she said.
Mr. Souza, I don't know if he could temporarily be in that position.
What would happen is that our fire chief would take over as town manager. And then without his services while we're doing this.
So I
selection.
was just throwing it out. I'm only. learning
Appreciate that.
too,
Thank you very
but
much.
As his protege, he would
Thank
know.
you.
Motion was made and seconded.
Can I just ask some questions before the vote? Couple things. One, how long that, if it goes forward as is, either way about if we're going forward with advertising, how long we want it advertised for? With a deadline X amount of days out, do we want to say 45 days out, to receive, resumes? That's one question. The other one is, also to set that range. I left the blanks on the salary range, to fill that in so that we can provide that. And I had some conversations with members that range is important, for trying to see if members from a manager from another community might consider applying. But if the range isn't any better, than what they're currently making, they probably would not apply. So that's really 2 questions I need to have answered so I can get it out.
I would consider doing as long as the RFP comes back. Whatever that is, 30 days.
30 days.
So application period of 30 days?
Yeah. So one takes over the other.
45, that's the norm. 45 days.
Well, I think, Council President, however you want to handle.
Are we under the
that.
assumption we're gonna advertise tomorrow? What if this gets approved tonight?
For the most part, I would say just give me a few days. I just
I
want
know,
to make sure.
so when they start coming in, we can start the process.
Yes.
Do we prepay for the advertising? Can we do 30 and then if we have to extend it, or does it not work that way?
It's more, I was just asking to say a deadline,
Oh, I see.
for candidates to submit their application by a date.
Yeah, 45 is fine, either or.
45.
45.
Okay, that's one part. Does the council have a recommended salary range that they'd like to see for this position?
I
Well-
was, go ahead.
We're at the bottom anyway, so, I think you have to start at 150 and max, maybe 200 or 175. I mean, we're gonna, ultimately, the council's gonna make the decision what the
Correct.
pay is, but I mean, I think the 150 to 175, 200 would be more than adequate. Because Mike, you had brought that
I'm
up.
thinking 150. I
Yeah.
agree with 150, maybe to 185 would be a good.
Yeah.
It kind of meets in
Wow.
the middle of it too. And
Yeah.
to be honest with you, I mean, that's the bailiwick of the analysis that we did, looking at the salaries. So I think that would get some people of a equal sized community as well as, some Massachusetts and Connecticut potentials as well.
Yes, sir.
Joe Toppy, 20 Alpine Ridge. I've run a search firm for 17 years. I would not advertise range. As a council, you may say 150 to 200, thinking you're going to pay somebody 160. Every candidate sees that 200, they want the 200. And we don't tell people ranges. We ask them what they're looking for. And then if you can work it within the range, and maybe they can have to come back to the council to see if they can stretch it. But if you put a high number out there, everybody wants the high number. Trust me, that's from experience. So I would.
I
not
don't
advertise the
disagree
range.
with you, sir. I completely agree, Mr. Toppy. Unfortunately, in this world is slightly different, as you know, when you've done municipal stuff, that in order for someone to put their neck on the line to apply to a position that they could potentially lose their current job because they applied for it, that they want to have some idea of what it could potentially go up to. Chaos, we can add
Could you
that
put
language.
from 150?
Usually what the problem is it's more the high end is the important number, not the low end. And meaning that whether or not they would do it. And it's also too is the transparent process to be clear about what it would be available out there to people. And it's also the same thing too, is like people looking for houses, that's why people price their houses at $499 instead of 500,000 for the people looking for a house. They go on the low end. On the high end of these salary searches, they're going to do the search criteria by the amount. I just have seen my other colleagues that are looking for jobs, they would not apply if they knew it was only up to 150.
All right, so do you know what the going rate is right now for town managers?
Yes,
You do.
yes. And that's part of what they were discussing. The number is based on an analysis I provided to them. So that range of the 150 to the 185 is the bailiwick for the size community and the growth over the time period to what it would be at.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I brought that point up before and I see totally both sides, obviously. But if somebody's only concerned about the money and we don't want to give somebody 200 based on the experience, we're not going to get them anyway. So either way, I would,
Does that satisfy your answer for the 150 to 200? Okay.
150 to 185. 150 to 185 was the consent.
Okay. And that's included in Councilwoman Toppy's motion.
yeah, do you want me to amend
You
it?
can
or-
just amend it to include that if you don't mind.
All right, let me see if I can remember. So my motion is for the town council to put out an RFP for a search firm. And including the salary, I'm sorry, that's the wrong one, and an advertisement for 45 days with a salary of 150 to 150,000 to 185,000. Additionally, define what the search committee is going to do. And also each council member will be choosing 3 and for discussion and consideration at the next council meeting. That was my motion.
Second.
What is, have we gotten a cost on what these firms? We have a general idea.
So the range that we received was from 10,000 up to, I think the high one, we got one after the fact was like 45,000. So from 10 to 45, but it also ranges in the amount of involvement that they have. So, I mean, it's the Cadillac plan or not, and based on the way the draft RFP that's included in it gives that flexibility to kind of see it at all different levels.
All right.
And President One, on page 4 or 5, it says between 9,500 to 2150. So that's a huge range. Again, it
Yeah.
depends on what we want, so.
Well,
We have nothing to lose.
I personally, I said it last meeting, the last search I was involved with, we didn't do a recruiting firm and we got plenty of applicants and it went pretty smooth, so we can vote on it if you like.
I,
All those in favor?
She was talking.
I'm sorry.
I just don't understand the hesitation. And I respect her, everyone's
Different
opinion.
opinions.
No, I totally get it. I think we're doing a disservice to this town if we're not opening the net further in looking for more candidates. Like I said, a search firm gets people who are not looking, who are really good a lot of the times. And that's just a fact. So, and they'll help us get somebody high level. We want somebody like Randy or even better. You know,
That's possible.
I'm just saying, it just does, they would only be able to help us. And again, there's no, strings attached. If we don't want to go through with it, I just think it's a huge disservice if we don't do that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. President, if I may, obviously we can go out to RFP for it. We don't have to hire them. They just put it out there and then see what happens. I mean, it is what it is. And, my thing is too, I wouldn't want the search committee and in the group that we pick butt heads. Either we're gonna do the 5 or do the search committee, one of the two. You can't do both.
Yeah. I like the idea of having people in the town interviewing qualified people.
They can.
It's just, personally, time is of the essence. He's leaving October early. This town
Exactly.
needs a town manager.
Right, and that's why we need
Correct.
to pick 3, 3, 3, 3,
Just
3,
keep moving.
and then put the committee together next meeting, and then that's it, go.
That's what well,
Bigger nets catch the fish.
Either that or you're gonna catch a minnow.
That's what we want to avoid.
I think we should at least do the RFP to keep our options open at this point. And I don't see the search committee and the private firm as being mutually exclusive. I think that could all work together rather nicely with the the search committee screening out the applicants that are provided by the recruiter. It just the recruiter gives us more applications. Because we don't know, the world has changed since the last time we did this. We don't know how many applicants we're going to get. We have no idea. We don't have no idea what's out there. This is a very unique position, town manager. Not every community has one. And so I think that, we should make sure that we cover all our bases and we do cast a wide net.
Yeah, but again, we don't have to. I mean, if it comes back that it's $100,000, we say, forget that. And we just go with the 5.
Right, that's right.
Right.
So the motion is
Vote.
second. Call the vote.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item carries. Okay, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing a request for proposals for executive and professional recruiting services for the hiring of a new town manager.
Vote passage.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
L, consider, discuss, and act upon authorizing a memorandum of understanding with Bryant University.
No, you go.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, council president. Thank you, council members. And this is a long time coming. Wouldn't have been possible with a lot of people that were involved in making this happen. And I will, I know Councilman DeSoni wants to mention them, and I will save that for him. But we were able to get we think a good agreement in the end with Bryant University, which would be a 10-year memorandum of understanding with the potential of an extension for 10 years. That would need to be decided by both parties at that point. It takes out a lot of the additional language that was in the old agreement, and also gets away from the town actually providing an invoice every quarter for emergency services. It's a flat amount that would be paid in cash starting this fiscal year at the amount of $650,000. In addition, and that has a escalation to it for a total over the 10 years to the town in cash value of $6,178,000 with an additional voluntary ongoing payment potentially at renewal of another 7.2 million. But what the addition to the agreement includes community contributions, which I'll briefly explain. And we're kind of a part of some of the prior agreement, which the big things are really the scholarships and the things that are provided to the youth of the community. That was very important in talking with all the council members. And I know as myself, providing that to one of our high school seniors graduating to have the opportunity to have 4 years of tuition being covered by the university. There's other pieces that balance it out. But the total amount over the 10 years, the first 10 years is $5.3 million of community contribution, which ranges in what those things are and be evaluated every year to make sure that that value is met over the potential renewal period. It's almost another $7 million of community contributions that would go back to the community. So this would be in place to guarantee that the town would not look to seek taxation for Bryant University, and these funds would go into the capital fund for the town and go back into the capital needs of the town. It can be disseminated, at a later point by the town council, how that will specifically be broken out. But to ensure that the capital needs, infrastructure needs, and so forth are funded by an outside revenue source that does not hit the taxpayers.
Thank you.
Move past.
Seconded.
I think the most important
discuss.
part of this agreement is the fact that we're able to cover the amount of money we're losing from the transfer of the Fidelity Building to Bryant University. In other words, it was transferred from a tax-paying entity to a tax-exempt entity. And we were going to lose upwards of $600,000 in taxes. And now that's going to be covered by this agreement so that we do not lose that amount. I think that is the most important part of the agreement. And then also on top of that, we were able to obtain all of these community contributions as the town manager just outlined for us. So I think this is a good agreement. I think it's very important also that we didn't enter into a 20-year agreement and bind the next 10 councils to the agreement. So I kind of made sure that we had that break after the 10 years where to renew the agreement, we would need to have the consent of both parties, not just one party, but both parties. So I think that was important.
I appreciate it. I just want to say for the record that I want to thank all the people that were involved in putting this together. It was an awful lot of hard work. And I know that it was not easy, but the proof is in what was produced, and I'm very satisfied with how negotiations worked.
We also needed, and I think you were going to mention that, our legislature, we needed to have that bill put in the legislature, that if Bryant didn't reach an agreement with us by the end of the fiscal year, that they were going to be subject to full taxes. And I think that really really launched serious negotiations to come up with a new agreement because otherwise there was no incentive for Bryant to negotiate with us. And I think we want to thank our legislators that did a tremendous job on that. Brian Ray, Senator Takoyan in the Senate, Brian Ray in the House led that effort. And Greg Costantino was involved as well.
Yeah, Mr. President, yeah, if I may, I was at all the hearings at the State House. I was at all the hearings at the State House, and I gotta give kudos to Randy for testifying. I also gotta give kudos to Mike for the meetings that he attended, and I attended some of them, but I really do, as Mike said, I gotta thank the Senate President and the Speaker of the House, Greg Constantino, Representative Ray, and Senator DeCoyan, because the pressure that they put on Bryant to get to the table to get it done was kudos to them. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Tom Hodgkins, 200 Farnham Pike. I recognize the mutual relationship here that Bryant and the town have, and that each is a benefit to each other, but I do have some questions about the agreement. So my understanding is that Bryant's property is assessed at just under 300 million, 50 million of that came off the tax rolls last year. What would the total tax liability be if Bryant was not exempt?
Wait a minute. So you said some numbers first that I wasn't sure of the numbers that you just said.
Okay, so
I couldn't hear you. That's
oh, sorry. So the assessed value of the property is about 290 million.
yes.
So what would the total tax liability of Bryant be if the property was not exempt?
If I remember off the top of my head, I don't have that number in front of me. I want to say it was about 4 million or $4.5 million.
Okay. So we're well under 25% annually of what the liability would be based on this payment, right?
Well, if they were legally able to be
Right.
taxed, yes.
Right. Okay.
But at the
Um,
same time, the property that was gained is also partially offset by the payment in lieu that the state pays, with that additional property being tax exempt to the university as well.
Right.
So it's a net in the middle of that as well.
With respect to the community contributions, this includes a value for the annual lease of the dog park of $21,000. The lease is $1 a year. So where did the 21,000 come from?
The 21,000 was evaluated by a tax assessor for the actual lease value of commercial property if they were to charge us for the property. If a commercial entities were to lease that property to the town of Smithfield, that's the reasonable annual lease value for that space.
Okay.
Yes, the agreement is for $1, but at the same time, as part of the negotiations was to be fair and that they were not going to develop that property and allow the town to use it.
Okay. And does the value of that lease and then also the scholarship comes off of the 500,000 a year in the community contribution?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then with respect to the community contribution, I mean, I understand it's a benefit, but the way it's written, this is in section 6. I mean, the whole agreement is voluntary, but it also says that the town and the university acknowledge and agree that the contributions may vary from year to year, and not achieving the stated goal will not result in any negative consequences for the university or an expectation of increased voluntary payments. So if the university, in their discretion, decides to just stop making the community contributions, we're binding ourselves here that we're not going to ask them for more direct money for the.
No, then we just put a bill in the General Assembly like we did this time.
No, but you're precluded from doing that under this agreement, because if you turn to what's labeled miscellaneous, although it's actually some pretty important terms of this, section 7 miscellaneous, the first bullet point, the town is agreeing that under this agreement, it will not do anything to try to enforce the tax liability on Bryant while this agreement's in effect. You're giving up that right by that term. So if Bryant chooses to not make the community contribution, then the town is limited to getting the voluntary payment for the length of the agreement, the way I understand that it's written. That seems to be a little bit off balance. On page 5, the first bullet point on page 5, one of the agreements that the town makes here is that the town will expedite all university filings and projects necessitating town regulatory review and approval. Now, I don't see why Bryant University should go to the front of the line ahead of taxpayers in town who have an application to do something on their own property, their own home, who pay the full assessed value of their taxes. Why should Bryant skip the line? I think that's totally unfair to the people here who pay the taxes that are due. The next bullet point, also, the town's administration shall make best efforts to support Bryant's Vision 2030 strategic plan with respect to the town's master planning process. This strategic plan isn't incorporated into this agreement. I don't know what it says, but I don't know how the council would be prepared to endorse Bryant's strategic plan here tonight without it being presented to us. There's also reference in here that future land purchases are envisioned during the time of this agreement. It seems like rather than endorsing Bryant's strategic plan, whatever that is, that this should say, we'll make the best efforts to support Bryant's strategic plan to the extent it complies with the Smithfield zoning ordinance and the comprehensive land use plan. Not just a blanket, we'll support it.
Yeah, it would have to comply with all of the town's zoning ordinances, comprehensive plan, all of that. There's no skipping the line here. In fact, you should see the language that was in here before we made them take it out.
Well,
There was language in
Yeah.
here that had them skipping the line, and that would be very unfair to taxpayers. I mean, because the average taxpayer can't come and, I'm going to pay an extra $100 in taxes and skip the line on all the zoning.
well,
The average person can't do that, and neither can Bryant under this agreement.
well,
The language in here is
familiar
this
with-
general language. It does not allow them to skip the line.
Well, I'm familiar with the prior MOU. And there was discussion about that, I think, 10 years ago. I don't think what was stated there was very accurate because the zoning ordinance doesn't provide for any expedited review other than in the growth overlay district. Bryant is not in the growth overlay district. And to the extent that our ordinance provides for that, that requires the finding of critical economic priority there, which things like increase the tax base. So I don't see a project at Bryant being of critical economic importance to the town so it can skip the line. But the way I read this, it says, quote, shall expedite. It seems like there's an expectation there from Bryant that that's what the town's going to do and what the town's agreeing to here. Also, with respect to the master planning process, make best efforts. I don't know. I mean, those two bullet points read together makes it seem like there's some expectation here that Bryant's going to be able to do whatever they want to do with respect to.
That might be an expectation that you,
complex.
from your interpretation of what they might be thinking, but that's not the practice of the way that the town would operate. That expediting portion, as you said, was in the prior MOU. And all it is the best efforts to try to move it through the process, not skipping anyone. But at the same time, certain reviews allow for X amount of days for review, just to get it done. That's the language is really benign because I understand what you're saying, but you get, as we get 5 attorneys in a room to read it, there's 5 different opinions. At the same time, and the best efforts of support does not mean that the town is endorsing that our best efforts to support their plan. That's all it is.
I think.
Everything else is in place to protect it, as you know as well.
I think we're talking the same language here.
Yes.
But I think if that's the case, then instead of shall expedite, it should say the town will make the best efforts to, efficiently process that application as possible. I shall expedite, that has a pretty binding effect. And so that's my concern there. And my thought is that if you have a disagreement like this on the interpretation, and then there's things like Bryant being able to cut out the community contribution without any adverse impact, if that's what they want to do. I think it leaves the town, kind of over a barrel here with, how Brian's gonna treat this. I also wanted to just speak briefly about the process, that was followed through this. And I don't know, it sounds like all of you have had discussions, but, this agreement closely mirrors the pilot agreement that Providence has, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But we had a much different process. The city of Providence released their MOU at least 30 days in advance. It went to a subcommittee hearing. It then had a separate public hearing before it was ever marked up for a vote by the city council. And I think if you look at it analogous, this is essentially a tax stabilization agreement in some sense. It's some flavor of that. Our tax stabilization agreement ordinance requires public notice and advertising in 14 days. This agreement was first made public on Friday at the end of August. And it's an agreement that's going to bind the town for the next 10 years. So I think there are some process issues there. And I hope the council will consider that when things like this come up in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the difference between this and a tax stabilization agreement is that in a tax stabilization agreement, the taxpayer is obligated to pay the taxes. Here we're dealing with a tax exempt organization. Under state law, they are not required to pay taxes. And so that's our starting point here. So our goal here was to get them to pay at least an amount that covers the property that went off the tax rolls because it was donated by Fidelity.
Just one additional item, Council Vice President, I just want to add to that, but also it includes what we are already getting when all the numbers work out. We are still going ahead versus where we were with the taxation. When you add the pilot dollars that are coming from the state, their contribution altogether, comes out higher, as well as on the other side, if we were to continue the old agreement, those dollars that we were getting are included in coming out ahead. So when you add it all together, so it's not just making whole on the tax dollars, we're getting all those other, that $100,000 that we were getting in emergency rescue services and police runs, all of those things, the contribution to the fireworks, when you add all those things together, it comes up so that we.
And the bottom line is, under state law, we're entitled to zero. That's what the law is right now, so.
Mr. President, there's a motion on the floor in a second. Call the vote.
Yeah, I would say I had an issue with supporting the 2030 strategic plan also. So I just looked it up on their website and it's kind of vague. So I was talking to Vice President, what does this mean? I mean, I don't know. And Mr. Hodgkins is right. Language doesn't, this is not to take away from all the effort that everyone put in. You guys have done a great job, but shall expedite means exactly that. It doesn't mean put your best effort. So we need to say what we mean. And not assume that Brian's going to. So, after bringing up those points, I'm not sure that I would be in favor of this. I'm not sure right now. Just because of
Call the
couple
vote,
things.
Mr. President.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
One abstain. Thank you. Item N, discussion concerning restricted groundwater extraction ordinance in the vicinity of the Davis Liquid Waste Superfund site located at 167 Tarkland Road.
Mr. President, this item was on the agenda tonight merely for discussion, follow up on the presentation that the EPA made 5 or 6 months ago regarding this Davis Dump potential groundwater overlay district in the vicinity of the Davis landfill. This matter has been taking a bunch of twists and turns over the last 10 years, 15 years. And the EPA is at a point right now where they're constantly monitoring the plume that exists on the Davis dump. And there are actually 3 homeowners left that have not tied into town water. They have existing wells they utilize. Those wells are monitored, I think several times a year by the EPA to make sure there's no intrusion of contaminants in those, in their water. So this ordinance this potential ordinance would merely create a groundwater extraction overlay, preventing homeowners from tying in and creating additional wells up there, which could basically result in contaminants coming up from any fractures in rock that occur as a result of drilling new wells.
Would they be grandfathered in, people that are living there already, or?
They don't have to, whoever has an existing well and functions on that well is, they're free to continue. However, the Davis landfill group that oversees this whole issue has offered to tie these individuals into town water at no expense to them.
So-
if they desire to.
So what happens, Anthony, if they get tested and all of a sudden becomes positive? Who pays for them to hook up? Do they have to, the homeowner have to pay?
No, this was gonna be free of
Free of
charge
charge.
at the expense of the Davis, the group that oversees the Davis.
Right. But I think the councilman's mentioning if it actually tests positive, it falls into a whole nother criteria at that point.
Yeah.
But to be the olive branch that they're doing for immediate connection, so it doesn't even get to that point
Right.
is to do
But some
that.
people, it's their decision whether they want to hook up or not. hook
Yeah.
up.
They've
I mean,
tried to-
if it was me, I'd be hooking up.
They've tried to reach out to these individuals a number of times, and they're going to try to reach out one more time to see if they're willing to do it.
How many are left?
To my understanding, 4 or 3. Four.
None of them have agreed to hook up at this point. Now, the EPA did test the wells recently.
They did.
They did test those houses? I didn't think they allowed them to test.
Thought they tested them and it was negative. That's the information I got.
We could
I
confirm
can't, yeah,
that.
we can confirm that. I don't remember if they were, because some of the people were not letting them on the property as well. That was the other issue that was going
Well,
on.
let's put it this way, the monitoring wells that the EPA said.
Correct.
did
The
not
actual
show any-
drinking wells
Yeah.
haven't been
Okay, right.
tested.
All right, okay,
Right.
so monitoring wells. So if they're showing that the water is not contaminated, then why would we call this a contaminated groundwater overlay district? I think
Right.
what we would want to call it is a restricted groundwater extraction overlay district. Because even though the water is not contaminated, what the EPA representatives told us when they came here was that the act of extracting the water moved the plume toward that area. And the plume is, when I say plume, I'm talking about the contaminated water, causes it to move. And so being in this district does not mean that you have contaminated water. It just means that you can't go into a well and extract the water and cause the plume to move toward you, because that could then cause contamination.
Because right now the plume is stable.
So what do you want to change the name of it to?
The
Restricted use?
restricted groundwater extraction overlay district.
So right now, this is on for a discussion tonight. We have to advertise.
Yeah.
Set it up for a public hearing, but Just wanted to
right-
bring it to everybody's attention.
Anthony, what rights do they have if we do this? Or what rights don't they have if we do this? If we do this overlay zone,
What rights to who have?
the four folks or
They
three
could
folks.
continue on as a.
We're not
operator.
taking anything away from
No,
them.
absolutely not.
Okay.
No.
Great.
There's no action on this necessary tonight. Just put it, set
I,
it.
I'd also like that, if we have a public hearing on this, zoning ordinance amendment, that each homeowner affected gets direct notice in the mail, that this is being considered by the council.
So this would be a zoning ordinance amendment, and it would have to go to the planning board first for an advisory recommendation, and it would come before the council for a zoning amendment hearing.
So no action, just, okay, thank you. Item N, consider discuss and act upon approving tax abatements in the amount of $7,136.19.
So moved.
Second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item 12, public comment. If you'd like to speak, come up and state your name and your address.
Good evening, council members. Al Cosentino, 16 Totem Pole Trail, Smithfield. I'd like to discuss briefly, the Town of Smithfield Water Board, which is all of you. So, as chair of the recent Charter Review Commission, one of the items that we brought before the town council at the time was to merge the water board with the sewer authority. So it'd be the sewer and water board authority. And the time it was stated to us, I think through the solicitor, that it would require something to go back to the state for. So I had talked to someone from the sewer authority about it, and they were on board with it. And it hasn't happened. And then I'm listening earlier this evening about duties of a new town manager or any town manager. And the council is the water board. There's people that are not running for office again, so there's going to be new council members. And there's always been new council members periodically, and they're the water board. So let me back up for a minute. Many, many years ago, the sewer authority was a mess a long time ago. And the neighbors became the sewer authority. And it got straightened out. And then it got to where it is today. It's excellently run. Just imagine for a moment that the sewer authority kept on changing hands as much as the council changes hands, and they would have to run the sewer authority. It wouldn't be where it is today. I know a lot about this because at one time my family had a public water system down in Smithfield. And there's nothing more important than water. So presently you have the town manager who's moving on in his career. The town engineer moving on in his career. Council people leaving, council people coming on. Most people that come on a council just don't know a lot about water, but then they're the water board. So, and you right now, by the way, which you're well aware of, your public works director is excellent with his expertise in water. He's been a big asset to the town of Smithfield. So he's still here, but everybody's moving on. So the economy of scale of having the sewer authority and the sewer and water board be one engineering firm, one permitting process application. And they're always there. They're always there every month. They have meetings. And I've over the years listened to a big presentation to a council and as the sitting as the water board without the expertise, they have to make that final decision. And it would be prudent to move this water board away from the council, create it with the sewer authority, and you've got 2, 3, or 4 people that have been assisting the water department, whatever, or with Gene, and but they're not a board. And the thoughts were at the time that maybe these people that are doing this now, they would be wanting to be added on to the sewer authorities because it'd be the sewer and water board. It would be a big relief to the town, to the council, by the way, to the new town manager coming in. You've got a new engineer coming in. And at some point, you know, who's to say that when Gene, if Gene decided to retire, or whatever, and I don't believe he is, but the thing is, does that mean you've got to find somebody with the expertise that Gene has in order to be public works director? Would be difficult when it comes to water, and he's real good at it. So I'd like to see this. Nothing's happened in the last few years. I've been talking about this for over 15 years, by the way, long before the last few councils, because it's important. But if you do this, the economy of scale of the operation, it's all about plant equipment, would be a big relief off the council, off the incoming town manager, the engineer and the public works director will always still work with them. And then you've got a place where all the paperwork is, you know what I mean? As far as the water board, the town Smithfield water board, you know, it would be where the sewer authority is. And I'd like to see, you know, I'd like you to consider that. I know there's only a couple of meetings left, and I don't know if the General Assembly's not a session, right? So this is going to be done next winter, but I think it should be, I really think it should be put in place right now to pass on to the new council and so forth to do that.
Al, I have a question, if I may.
Huh?
I have a question. So the Charter Review Commission, did you bring that forward to the council?
Oh, yes, that was one, that was,
And it never got voted on?
it couldn't get voted on. At the time, we weren't aware that, yeah, we brought it before the Charter Review Commission approved it and brought it before the council as one of our changes. But as the solicitor said, when we did that, it requires something to have to be done down on the state level in order to do that. I think you undo something to do something.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
But it never got that far. It
No,
was dropped.
yeah. And, it's an asset to the town, this water, this water, system that we have in this town.
Mr. Constantino, just one question, because I know you're great at research. Do you have any of the old research on the creation of both of the entities back in from you know, the state archives or anything like that you might have researched or anything to give us a starting point, or no?
I haven't researched it. You mean anything about the water?
Well, the creation at the state level, whether or not it was something that was chartered or if it was, you know, because some of the things aren't the easiest things. Okay. He has it. No, I just want to make sure. No, I just figured I'd ask what he has.
No, I don't
Okay.
know.
All right.
But, it would be a big relief and it'd be continuity, you know? There's just one other thing and then I'm gonna sit down. So, I'm going to quote Councilman Kilduff. I feel much better if the position of elected town manager was voted down by the people. I would feel relieved. not so much was voted down, but it happened. I just want to quote him because at the time, with the previous, with the Charter Review Commission, the majority was to put on a ballot. And he stated when he voted as a council person that he's against it. And would vote against it, except he felt that the people should have that right to vote. And I understand how it happened, of why it didn't get on the ballot. I get that. The town manager for many years was a co-administrator of the town, you know, and then working with everybody, and then became the town manager after being the finance director. And I understand all that, you know, but it would be, you could still put on the ballot, but and then it would be over with, you know. But that's all I have to say about that. Thank you.
Be under the next council, is it next year?
Next year.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak?
Good evening, Joanne King, 11 Deer Run Trail. I am here as a taxpayer. I do have two roles, but I'm here just as a lake abutter and taxpayer on the Lower Sprague Reservoir. I had come into communication with the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management, and I am potentially being sued over a dam that is allegedly leaking, but there is no concrete evidence on who owns it. I have done some research. David Choppy from the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management has claimed that there are three options regarding the dam. The first one is that they will fix it and they will charge the owners who are not identified of the bill to fix the dam. The second one is they will knock it down. That will mean the end of Lake Weonkekee. Or the third one is they're going to, what's the word I'm looking for? They're going to take all the information they have and dump it on the lap of a judge at Superior Court, because there was a notice of violation filed in 2019 that was right before COVID. And Mr. Choppy told me that the judge would make the determination on who owns the dam, what the dam, I guess, future will be. And my communication with him has stopped because I asked him a question that I've asked the EPA, the USDA, the NRCS, the RINRCS, the Wonesusquatucket River Watershed, and no one can come up with an answer. I'd like to give you these pictures.
Take your time.
While we're waiting for these to hand out, that you might want to meet with her at the end of this meeting, right?
We're gonna have to.
You can keep going.
Oh, thank
No,
you.
no problem. Thank you.
Okay, so the first picture that I'd like to draw your attention to is the one that has the dock with the two chairs on it. And this is going to lead up to my question. So the dock with the two chairs on it is the focal point that I can see from my deck. And I use that to gauge the water loss that we suffer every summer. So the dock with the chairs on it is what the people from Deer Run Trail see from October through the end of April. According to Mr. Choppy, All right, let's go to the second picture. I'm jumping ahead. I apologize. The second picture is what I'm looking at now from my deck. The first picture was taken the beginning of June, the one with the two chairs on it. The second picture was taken the end of July. If my Google research was correct, from the end of April to the end of July, that lake has gone down 500,000 gallons of water. This happens every year. For the past 3 years, we have not been able to use the lake for recreation because of the vast water disappearance. Mr. Chapia, DEM claims that it's the vegetation on the dam, hence my question. If the vegetation in the dam is making the water decrease by approximately 500,000 gallons every summer, what does the vegetation do in October where the water starts to accumulate again? Does it? I cannot get an answer. So picture number 1 with the chairs is what we see from October through the end of April. Picture number 2 is what we see from May until the end of September. Every year, consistently, I asked Mr. Choppy, can you tell me why the dam consistently fails every May and then starts working again in October? I cannot get an answer. The town engineer here couldn't answer it. Paul Facamandi from USDA couldn't answer it. Margarita Porter from the EPA couldn't answer it. I do not know where to go next. So I am pleading with the council here. To save me from going to Superior Court, could you please consider, we have no money. This is all new to us. I bought the house and I did not know I was a potential owner of a dam and a gatehouse. Could you please consider clearing the dam of vegetation? I have no access to it. The dam is landlocked. It's landlocked by the Saunders on Deer Run and Mr. Bates on Indian Run. I do not have a vehicle that goes on the water to go and clean the vegetation. Even if it's in the form of a loan or something, I can get the neighbors together. We do have neighborhood meetings. I'm just asking for your help because the lake is going to die. The population of, this is gonna sound bizarre, but I used to look forward to having turtles lay their eggs in my yard. I haven't had a turtle lay an egg in my yard in 4 years. We are being inundated with invasive species. I am told I have to work within a very small window to get the invasive species taken care of. And I am going, I didn't want to go into my role as the president of the Lake Weonkekee Improvement Association, so I'm going to stop there. I just wanted to share that information with you. I think it's a slippery slope. If we let a Superior Court judge make the determination on a lake, a dam, and a gatehouse that's been part of this town since 1942. Thank you very much for listening. Everyone, Mr. Ioannoni, you have my contact information. Mr. Rossi, you do as well. Any consideration that you can afford the 70 families along the Lower Sprague in Reservoir will be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I think it's troubling that we have private dams in the first place, and I'm not sure how that came about. Do you know, Anthony? Is it by state law?
I have no
I think that we should look into that and find out who, how many private dams we have, who's responsible for them and what their status is. Because, if we have dams leaking, that's not going to be good for our residents. So I think that we should be proactive and find out what's going on with these dams.
Thank you. Yes.
L'Oreal at 7 Totem Pole Trail. I live on the same lake. And if that dam fails, Indian Run Trail is gonna be in deep doo-doo or deep water. I bought my house about 30 years ago, 32. When I first moved there, it was in the winter. It was just pretty scenery back there. I was a single mom, had no intentions of putting a boat on it or anything. But as I've lived there, I've learned to appreciate it. My husband now enjoys fishing, my granddaughter. They don't do it anymore. They can't. My dock is out of the water entirely. The water has gone down so much, it's not even funny. My granddaughter's 14 and a half. When she was 3 or 4 years old, we would go down to the water. We would take stones and we would throw them in the water. It was so clean at that point and no weeds that when we ran out of rocks, we'd go back into the water, we'd pick them up and come back out and throw them again. Boring, but it's fun. Now I wouldn't let a dog go in that water. It's horrendous. It needs to be cleaned of the invasive species. The dam needs to be addressed. And as Ms. King said, we're landlocked. We can't get in there. No one will let us in there to do anything. It's out of control. We've tried to turn it over to the town. We haven't had much luck doing that either. Something needs to be done because those of us who live on the lake, we've lost what it's, if I want to sell my house now, I'm going to have to sell it in March or April. Because other than that, they're going to look at it and they're going to go, who needs that mosquito puddle back there? Because that's about what it's coming to.
Mhm.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Al Costantino, 16 Tomapo Trail, listening to these two ladies. They took a note and put it in a bottle, put a cork on it, Waterman's Lake, lines up the Water Place Park. That's a tributary that goes through Smithfield. There's dams everywhere. It's not the only dam. There's just dams everywhere. There's one, there's two on Stump Pond. You just go down the road, follow it. There's dams everywhere. And I recall quite a few years ago, I think there was a federal grant to rebuild the dam over near the Elks on Stump Pond, you know. So I don't know if there's grants available for, force majeures or emergency stuff to do, you know. But I think you ought to look at grants because the people, no one can put their finger on who owns what, but somehow there was a grant to rebuild with several $100,000 over at, behind, across from, near the Elks. That's it. Grants.
Anyone else like to speak? There most-
Just have a comment. Maybe Randy, we can get a meeting with DEM. Have a conversation with them about this.
Again?
They show up, they show up.
Hmm.
The invite's there.
Motion to adjourn?
So
All those in